So, what if you felt super inspired? What if you could wake up in the morning feeling so revitalized, so excited, in the flow of your life, like kind of you've been almost reborn? And your career path, that business, whatever it is able to light your soul on fire. And if that's not the thing, that you do have the answer to how you can live into that space of feeling like you're purposefully living again. And again, stepping into the fire that you had in your belly, that passion that you were born with, the gifts and unique talents that make you who you are, and you could absorb all of that and turn it into something that like super boosts your life. What would that be like? And so if that sounds good to you, I will tell you, first of all, I'm Jen, founder and owner of Laughing Lotus Wellness, and I'm a purpose coach and expert. And what I do is work with women who are on a path where they feel like they kind of got off course. Well, maybe not kind of, but maybe wholly got off course. I've been there, done that. Speaking to y'all there out there that have ever had this experience of feeling like you need to kind of reinvent yourself. And all of us go through parts of our lives where we're going to have this experience. My expertise is really in purpose. And so, as a clinical social worker of over 20 years, what I did most of the time in my office was actually supporting people and making meaning of the things that were going on, right? That's a big facet of like, why is this happening? Why me? And so that's kind of how it turned into this really kind of purpose driven energy that I show up with. And what I do is I work with women to get clarity around how they got where they are, where they want to go, and how we're going to make that happen. And whether we can do it where you are or shift just a little bit into a different lane, we're going to get you back into that space of feeling fire, like fiery, driven, creative, passionate, excited, and inspired. And I went through this. Like I said, I love telling my story just because I've been there and done this. I was about my mid 40s when I really hit a stride and I realized that I was not in the right space anymore. And so, for all intents and purposes, anybody from the outside looking in would have seen this and said, oh my gosh, she's got all of her shit together. She's got a good business and career path and a family and whatever, right? From the outside looking in, it's always really easy for us to have this impression that someone's really got their poop together. And I should have, right? But I didn't. I wasn't feeling that at all. And so I really did have to kind of at that time begin to recreate and reinvent something new for myself. And in doing so, it was like the world opened back up again. And the difference between that version of me and this version of me sitting here today before you look nothing the same, not even kind of. And so I was more isolated. I was sad. I was anxious. I was irritable. I just wasn't present. And I wasn't enjoying my life to the degree that I knew I typically had fire for. And so it really caused me to like, okay, I need to reflect on this. I've got to reevaluate. Like, what do I need to do? Because what I'm doing is not going to work. And so I invite anyone who that resonates with to listen. So first of all, I want to mention that y'all know what I do. Y'all know, right? We're going to skip through. I'm going to get to the good stuff. We've got a little bit of an extended chat today. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is a couple of things. Take the time that you have. If you can listen now, great. If you can't, know that you can always come back and treat my lives as podcasts. So what you can do is you can throw that on while you're cooking, while you're doing some laundry, just doing stuff around the house. This is a great, or even driving in your car, right? You can just take a listen. You don't have to watch me. And so I always encourage that because that's a really great use of this time. Because if it gets a little bit long and you don't have time over your lunch, which I'm trying to kind of nab you all at lunch as much as I can, you can take and listen to this a little bit later and just use it as kind of audio. Okay. So I want to announce I have got a complimentary masterclass coming next Wednesday. I am super excited to be bringing this into you all. It's going to be on Wednesday evening. It starts at 7:30 and goes till 9. Now that's Central Standard Time. So wherever you get to do the math. But we are going to be in for an hour and a half together. We're going to be doing a little bit more of an exercise related like experience around release. So I've been talking about it this month. I've been teaching on it this month. You can go in and listen to all the vlogs. They're all on my website. And so you can go find those wherever your favorite social media platforms are, but you can find them. And what we're going to do though is we're going to take and we're going to have an experience. So next Wednesday, that masterclass is going to be going through some of the tips and tools for how we do this. And again, why it's so important. And then at the end, what we're going to do is we're really going to end with a really beautiful meditation journey and practice, which I'm really excited about. So I do hope you'll come and join me in that masterclass. It's an hour and a half. And come and sit with me and hang out and let's do some talking. I love questions. So I really invite you to come in and treat that as a coaching session. You made it. I'm so glad you're here. My good friend is up in the house. And so I love it. Valencia is here with us today. And so I want you to come in and use that as a coaching time to come in with your questions about release and like letting go of things and how do we do that, right? Because there's a fine art to doing that. So we're going to be talking about that next Wednesday evening. Here's how you sign up. Super easy, my friends. If you're in Instagram, there's a link in my bio that has my website. Either way, if you can get to my website, all you do is click on book an appointment. It's the only thing listed right there right now. Okay. Super easy, complimentary, cost you nothing. I take your email so I can send you the link and off we go next Wednesday. Okay. I hope to have some freebies to give you guys on Wednesday as well. I'm working on it. We'll see if I can pull it together. I'm scared to guarantee anything, but I'm working on it. So you will take some things away from next Wednesday. So I hope you'll come join me for that masterclass, pass it on. If you know anybody who could use support in letting some things go. We've all been living through COVID and this pandemic. It has really shaken all of us to the core. And so really, truly, like most of us could probably use some time to reflect on things that might need to be released. Okay, so today, here's what we're going to talk about. Two things. One, intentionally letting go. I'm going to explain that in a minute, so roll with me. The second is self-doubt. The reason we're combining two things, which is a little bit unfortunate because it's going to feel a little bit weighty and it's going to take us some time, okay? Because last week I went live on Instagram with my guest speaker, my friend Chris Happy, who's amazing. She's an educator and light finder. She's so great. The tech was not working. We couldn't get her signed in. We finally got her signed in. It took forever. I was signing off. She was signing off. It was a whole mess. Like your worst nightmare on social media. You're like, really, this is not happening. And recorded it, had people ask questions, had people pop in. And the next day my friend went in to watch it and she was like, I can't hear you. I was like, what is happening? So anyway, I deleted it. I was super heartbroken because I know you all would love Chris and she is so smart and has so much to offer. I was like, shit. But it is what it is. Nothing you do. So I deleted it. I'm like, ain't nobody going to take the time to figure out. You could go listen on your computer, but I was like, ain't nobody going to do that. So we're going to reshape it. We're going to reconstitute it, right? What's that called in modern restaurants when they deconstruct? We're going to have a deconstructed conversation because she will not be with us. And I'm very, very sad about that. So, so sorry. Valencia, what'd you say? Complimentary equals classy. That's right, my friend. You know what I'm talking about. You asked that question, sister. I'm taking your lead. So here's what we're going to start with because I want to go in kind of order. So what Chris and I were talking about was the intentional letting go. Her phrase that she uses is an intentional abandonment. And so the reason I didn't say that is I thought, ain't nobody going to come listen to a conversation with the word abandonment in it. Can we talk about it? It does not sound happy. And so I talked about the fine art of letting go with intention. Okay, so here's where we're going with this. The idea in a strengths-based perspective, which Chris is bringing, which is genius. So we've got two separate ideas that tie together. Her first idea is that in strengths-based perspective, we really want to send our energy the most laser focused in on what our strengths and talents are. And so her job as an educator is to find that in each student she's working with and really build that up and emphasize the good stuff. And knowing that because none of us wired great at everything, whatever that doesn't serve us the most, we release. Makes perfect sense, right? I mean, that seems to make perfectly logical sense. And so that's one of the things that I really want to invite you to do. Why is that important? Because in your purposeful living, you're going to be surrounded in our culture of expectation of us doing all of the things, right? And when I opened my private practice a million years ago, it feels like a million years ago. When I opened my private practice, I instantly knew, here's the deal. I am not going to want to do billing. I'm not going to do my own accounting. I'm not going to write my own legal documentation because that's stupid. And right. So what I did was I hired those things. So that was a case in point of a moment where I knew myself well enough to know what my strengths are, and my strengths aren't in numbers. I'm not an accountant. I don't do that for a living. My sister does. My sister's a freaking genius at it. That's not my cup of tea. So I'm going to hire someone to do the stuff that's not my strong suit. I'm not serving my clients best. And I really want you to think about this. How do you show up serving your unique talent and gift the best? And what I'm good at is client care. What I'm good at is customer service. Where I shine is in connection with people. It's not the paperwork, it's not the computer work, it's not in the details that way. For me, it's about the service. Okay. And so what I did was I wanted to create an environment where I wasn't having to do much of that, because I really wanted to elevate the strength, the parts of me that are, and honestly, it's what I enjoy the most, right? So you'll know this because it's the stuff you like the most. So this is the same idea of what Chris was trying to offer up to each of us, which is living into those strengths the most. So I am going to try to live into my humor, right? My connection with people, how I show up with my creativity and thinking outside the box, to make sure that each person's getting what they need. That's really what I want you to grab onto in this conversation today. And so walking away thinking about, how do I show up best for my people that I serve, or my service, or my business, or my whatever it is you create, right? So if you're, for example, let's say someone creates gift boxes, that's their thing. That's so fun. They would totally love that. Another lifetime. Can I be real? I put one together last year for a retreat. It was so much fun. So that kind of thing lights someone's soul on fire. They love the creativity. They love finding the things and putting it together. But really, shipping isn't their job. Right? Okay. So, right, maybe billing isn't their job. So they're going to find people to support and pull in a team of people that hold space for them to really step into their greatness. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Okay. All right. We're going to go a little deeper. So now we're going to go a layer. We're going to go a layer down. Okay. Making sure I'm not missing anything here because I can't see my Instagram. Okay. So a little deeper yet. My take on intentionally letting go, the fine art of letting go, is actually, even Glennon Doyle spoke to this. And I mentioned it when I did the last recording because I loved it so much. She talked about intentionally quitting things. I was like, that's badass. When someone can really give herself permission to say, this doesn't work for me, I'm going to quit it. And she encourages people on purpose to, I quit shit every day. And I love her spunk anyway, right? But for many of us, this is really a complicated thing. And so I wanted to speak to my own personal story around this a little bit, because I think it outlines a way that we can get stuck. Okay. So I'll try to move through this as quickly as I can for you. So way back in the day, a couple of years ago, let's start there. A couple of years ago, my daughter was going through some really significant struggles. It was her sophomore year of high school. She had some mental health issues. It was just hard. She had a whole handful of things on her plate. It was rough. Okay. And the reason I say that is she, at the time, she's an athlete. She's a great swimmer. She's very talented. And she wanted to quit her swim team. And I worked with teens for 20 years. So, I mean, I was super compassionate, like deeply concerned. I mean, like as a mom, it was probably one of the hardest parenting moments of my entire life thus far. And it was a really hard time. And so I was very concerned. And yet when it came to this swimming thing, I really was in a knot about it. Like I was gripping and I was like, that's quitting. And I was mad at her. And I'm like, why in the hell, when you know she's suffering, are you mad at her? It didn't feel rational to me. Like I couldn't kind of get my finger on it. Like, have you ever had this experience where you're like, something's riding around with me? Like, what the fuck is that about? I couldn't figure it out. And so in a conversation with my husband one day, I said, talking through this, and I can't get why I'm mad at her because she's struggling and I know it and I see it and I'm so worried for her. Like, why am I hanging? I'm like, okay. I got it. So when I was a teenager, there was a really pivotal point in my life that was pretty traumatic for my family. And what happened was my mom was actually going through some really tough mental health issues herself, and she was missing. She was missing. And we got a note that she was planning to take her own life. And so, for days, and I honestly can't even remember how long. I know that sounds terrible, but I think I've just repressed it. For how many ever days, we totally believed that she was gone. And obviously that's very pivotal. Now, so let me just rephrase this before we go much further. It's all good. That's not what happened. She came home. It's a very long story, which we will not get into today. But I do want to emphasize this. It was a very pivotal moment of which I took away a lot of ideas and stories that don't serve me today. So as a 17-year-old kid, which is, by the way, the very age my daughter is right now, talk about triggers, got to work through my stuff this year. Let me tell you, I was really traumatized by that. And what happened was I took some ideas about my worthiness, about what it means to quit and give up on something. And so as in your 17-year-old self, you digest it. My mom came home. I was, both relieved and really angry. And so what happened was I developed this idea, this notion that responsible people don't quit and give up. And what happened was it actually turned itself on its ear. And so when my daughter was going through this, my interpretation, the lens that we use, which I always put out in the side of your head, it's like a big ass magnifier. And everything in that magnifier is what you've experienced in your life. They're the stories we're all carrying around. And it's super normal. It's human. We've all got it. It's just our experience, which creates perception. Okay. So when my daughter had this journey, it came in through my lens and it got turned into this, you're giving up, you're walking away, you're quitting. Okay. Here's what it really meant. What it really meant was she was making a radical form of self-care. She was making a decision for herself. She, in her 15, 16-year-old self, knew better than I did. And she did quit. And it was the right thing to do. And I went back to her later and I shared this entire story. She knows about the whole story of my family. We're very clear about mental health history in my family because that's really important that our kids know. And so she knew, but I walked her through. I said, I'm really sorry. I was not super gracious about that. And when I was gripping and holding, and I want you to get this idea, right? This release, right? I was gripping and holding this idea about how we do the things. And I was wrong. And I had to eat crow for my kid. I had to go to her and say, not my finest parenting moment. And she said, Mom, it's okay. It's totally okay. I said, no, it's not. No, it's not. I want her to understand adults make mistakes. I want her to understand her listening to herself was the smartest thing she could do. And I was just really late to the game because my own shit, my old story got in the way. So you might be listening right now and you might be having the same notion of, oh shit. Okay. So I get what you're saying. So back in the day, okay, we developed an idea or a story because we've been through stuff, all of us been through stuff, right? And my story is just one of many, okay? And so it was really this gigantic, expansive evolution for me to put together. Why? Because not only had that idea poked out its ugly little head, it reared its little head for my daughter in a moment when my daughter really just needed me to be present and not my own shit, but also it anchored me to my job. That's part of why I stayed so long in my private practice, was because responsible people don't quit and leave. And if I really know myself, right, and I do the jobs. I do take care of the things. I have shown up. And somehow yet that old story rides around with me. It's like in my big old backpack, right? Our backpacks are full of stuff, right? And my lens, that story tells me strong people don't give up. Responsible people don't walk away. I have, staff, and I've got this practice, and I developed it, for God's sakes. I gave birth to this practice years ago. And that concept, that old belief system, anchored me. And so rather than seeing leaving, quitting, releasing as a radical act of self-care, I saw it as selfish. And that was an old story talking. And it took my beautiful daughter to go through something pivotally hard to teach me that lesson. And the minute I got it, the minute I was talking to my husband, and the minute it came out of my face, I'm like, there we go. And everything released. I could let go of that, because I all of a sudden saw it was my story staring back at me in the face. It had nothing to do with her. And I had to own that again. And that's why I talked to her about it. So I want to put this as a really personal story, but I wanted to put it out there because that's the reality of all of us. The reality of all of us is that we're going to have minutes where we're going to be struggling. And the biggest and most important thing we can do for ourselves, I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. The biggest and most important thing we can do for ourselves, my friends, is check ourselves. Okay. It's to go back and look. Because in our library of stories, in our vast experience, in our backpack full of things, what we develop at one point in our lives will not serve us in perpetuity. So what served me in a moment, there was moments where that strong sense of responsibility and what it meant really served me. It also kicked my ass along the way. And so that's true for so many of us. And so here's what I want you to do. I want you to sit with an idea. And this is kind of a cue for people. Can you have compassion? Can you have compassion for the old story? Can you show up with a lens of sweetness and understanding that the person in the moment that you developed this belief, it was developed as a form of self-care. It was developed as a form of defense. And at the moment you did that or experienced it, you needed it. At 17, I had no other reference for life. Okay. So develop a way. You just create this story. And so I want to unravel and unpack that for all of you so you can sit in that understanding that those old stories, despite the fact that they're kicking our asses sometimes as we age, they're guardians. At one point they were our warriors. They were our defenders, right? Like superhero cape standing with flapping in the breeze, right? And so they're not our enemies. And so I want you to put on a new lens about how we look at this stuff. And I wanted to share that story because to me, it was a pivotal, profound, big, eye-opening, expansive evolution of my soul to understand that radical self-care looks like quitting sometimes. It looks like walking away sometimes. It looks like calling a spade sometimes. Or saying, I intended to do that thing and now I don't have the time. And instead of letting that old belief system, that old story hang on us, right? It's like carrying big old rocks in your backpack. So what we do when we can examine that and take a look at it is I can take it out and I can let it go. And I can catch myself now, right? So that self-awareness was the springboard for, okay, I can catch myself. I see what you're doing there. Oh, I see you there, old thought. And that's sweet of you to show up when I don't need you. And then I can go, okay, but now I know that doesn't serve me. That doesn't serve me. So we can then reconfigure. Okay. But we can't without the awareness. So there's like the stages, right? There's the awareness. We want to have some compassion. We want to understand where it came from. because it's clearly creating something that we're hanging on to. So the belief and the story are old. They're not serving us. We need to figure out how we can incorporate that to let that go. So I wanted to share that. I know that's kind of a grim story. Like I said, there's more to that story and it's fine and everything's fine. But there was a minute where that was very, very stressful. And so I created some really significant things that I had to work through in my life. And I think this is true of most of us. The story is just a little different for all of us. And so I want you to begin to look at intentionally letting go of the things that don't serve you in your highest good, meaning if it's that you don't want to do your own books because you're sucky at it, don't do it. Maybe you're really good at the books and you're like, look, me and other people, not my fave. I'm an introvert. I don't want to do the front desk stuff. You hire somebody else. You're like, hey, yo, you over there, will you hook me up? Right. And they're the front face of something. I always talk like my stuff because I love people. So, I'm like, give away the business stuff, the like paperwork and the money, like, okay, right. But you feel me, right? Everyone's different. So you're going to give up and move into the things that really serve you best because it's where you're going to shine. Your best success, your best purposeful living is in living most fully into your gifts. Okay. Number 1. 2, you're going to need to look at your stories. And I know that, I thought Valencia said something. So what I want you to understand is your beliefs and your stories are following you around. So you're going to also want this backpack you're carrying, this lens you've got going on, you're going to want to take a look at that because it will trip you up. It'll trip you up. Okay. So we don't want this to cost you any more time than it has to. And so there really is a value in unpacking that bag, unpacking the lens, looking at the stories. How did I get here? Value, value, value. I'm telling you, try it on. It'll be distinctly uncomfortable. I'm just warning you. And powerful. Okay. So I want to get to that. Okay. So as I defined, right, I'm going to walk you through this just one more time, and then we're going to move into our second phase. Okay. So one more thing, because I do want to say this. If we intentionally let go of things that aren't for our highest good, okay, whether it's a belief system, a story, experience, a job task, any of that's not serving the best version of who you can be, we want to let that go. And I said, one of the notes that I made in one of the vlogs that I put out was, it's so important to understand that you're unlearning so much in life as you are learning, and making room for the unlearning. And some of the work I do with coaching is in the unlearning, and it's the unpacking that baggage, the stones that we're carrying that tend to like weigh us down, right? They feel like that burden of expectation. I said, very early in this month of content that we're talking about, we're going to need to let that stuff go. And so there's an art to it, right? And so I want you to begin to really look at that lens, look at the stories, and understand. I'm just checking to see if anybody has any questions. Please feel free to ask, you guys. I should have said that early. Please feel free to ask questions about that. So as I'm sharing those ideas about intentional letting go, being aware of your stories, right? I told one of my stories from my life, a couple of them actually. And so how this looks, how this shows up. So even though that's like really personal, it's how it shows up. And I want to invite you to ask questions as we go about this as well. So I want you to understand that unlearning, I know this is a really weird idea, because I'm such an education fan. I'm just a nerd about school and certifications and learning and absorbing. And like, that's just one of my very favorite things in the world to do. And that's great. And there's a huge value in unlearning. And the unlearning is the unpacking. So I want you to think about it that way. So what do I need to unpack to really understand how I'm showing up to this game? So if I take a woman, for example, and we're going to move on. If I take a woman who's in midlife and she's deeply depressed and wounded and sad and defeated and disappointed and not loving her work. She did the dream. She's super successful for all intents and purposes. Her life is made. And instead she feels like garbage on the inside. She dreads her work. She hates her business. Something along the way has gone amiss, right? I would want to understand for that person, I would want to understand that there is likely a story that woman has that got her to where she is that's keeping her stuck. I have them. You have them. So this is the kind of thing that when I say unlearning, what we're doing is we're unpacking so that we can really take a deep look at what's not serving us and understanding it. Because then once it's in our awareness, it's much easier to monitor when it wants to rear its head. And I can go, oh, I see you there. No. You know what I'm saying? Oh, no, I'm sorry, my friend. No, you don't have room at the table. That old belief, that old story, it does not show up and serve me. Okay. That's why we do the work. So I wanted to mention that because that unlearning is a really big deal. Okay. So I define release as resolving to escape the layers of expectation and self-doubt to evolve. So I want you to have that in the back of your mind as we're talking. We're going to switch gears into self-doubt. We will not be here long, I do not believe, unless someone has a really grand question, which I certainly would love and invite. And if you ask them later, I will answer them. I promise. If you ask me a question in the comments, I will get back to you always. So here's what self-doubt is. Self-doubt is fear. Right? Bam. Self-doubt is fear. And so what we want to talk about is, it's really about thought changing. So when we talk about self-doubt is also going to commonly be connected to our stories. Am I worthy of success? Do I know enough? I talk to so many women, my friends, really powerful women, business owners, content creators, influencers, and they're still saying the same stuff. I get in my head about, do I know enough? I get in my head about, am I expert enough? I get in my head about, but someone's already doing that. I get in my head about, right? So you can list and list and list. And so much of that comes back around to being about worth. Am I worthy of this greatness? And can I step into the light? If I step into the light, what does that mean about me? Because I probably got old stories about that, right? Is that arrogant? Is it yucky? If I'm powerful, does that make me bitchy? This is what we do. And so I really want to nab on this idea about self-doubt and squashing that, like snuffing it out like a candle. Right? That is not serving us. And the thing I want to say, and I said it some time ago about being in your highest and best form, your highest and best form would never put you down. So it's a way to check, am I an ego or am I in highest self? Because if you're thinking things that are not nice about yourself, if you're being critical, you're not in your highest self. So that's a great way to check yourself. It's like, okay, I see you there. I see you sneaking in. And what I really want to do is invite you to squash that by really looking at your light, by really looking at what you bring to the world. So there is this value in knowing your skills and tools and the places that make you powerful as a human being, because those are like the opposite of self-doubt. They're the opposite of fear. When we're standing in that, we're standing in love, we're standing in power, we're standing in greatness. And when we're in that self-doubt space, that's fear-based. Right. So self-doubt's all about fears. It's all about the thoughts that roll around in our heads that create imposter syndrome and this idea that we might not be good enough to be successful. What if I want to have a business, but what if I can't make it? They're all the things that keep us up at night. Or maybe we wake up in the night and they roll around our heads. Been there, done that too. Anybody else? So what I want to invite you to do is really take a look at, how can you change the thinking that you have when you catch it? Can you catch it as quickly as possible? Can you go, oh, I see you there. Okay, that's a doubt. Is that my ego or my highest good? Oh, that's my ego talking. Okay, so that's my fear. And is fear-based living how I want to show up to my things? Nope. Nope. Will the best form of what I have to offer, will my service for everyone out in the world be better served from a place of fear or a place of love and light? Oh, love and light will always win. Right? Superheroes, anyone? Yes. Okay. So one is catching it. And then two is what we do with it. And I really want to invite you to think about it this way. How can you either create a sweetness bucket of some kind where you can go back and look at success for yourself? Where did you do well? I really recommend, literally, it looks like this. It can look like letters, cards, or texts, anything that someone's ever written to you to thank you for your work, to thank you for your service, to reflect on what you're like to be with that felt so loving and kind, and you're going to store it. So it's keeping that, or it's going through and writing out memories of moments where you felt super good, where you felt your very best. Because what we want to do is we want to recycle that. And then when that's not necessarily cutting it for us, we might have to go to someone, our friends, family, coach, whoever you're connected to, your community, and say, I'm in my head. We do this for each other. My friends, my strong, beautiful female friends that I have that I really partner with quite a bit. This is what we do for each other. If somebody's having a minute, I don't know why I'm doing this, right? We'll reach out like, okay, I'm having a day, right? Emergency. And the alarms are sounding and everybody's freaking out. And then someone will come in and say, you've got this. Remember when you did the thing and you figured it out and then it was really successful? Remember that. So sometimes we can have our own internal voice and we can have our own internal memories and little, like I said, sweetness, right? Like I want you to imagine a little box that you create that has your greatness in it, that are your reminders of your goodness. They're the reminders of the moments where you felt the most successful and beautiful and showed up the most authentic that you could. And were really in the flow. You were like in your lane, you were doing your things. It didn't matter what else was going on outside of you. You were laser focused on what you're here to do. And so we need those reminders from time to time. So I'm a big fan of gathering up that kind of goodness to have it on hand, because you will have a bump in the road. We all do. You will hit a snag, and you will be so grateful that you took a minute to kind of get your head wrapped around that idea to really maintain being in the flow of things. And you want community, because your community is going to be a reminder of the vision that you have for where you want to go. And they're also sometimes the best people to go, do you remember that old story? Yeah, it's coming back around. That's what that is. You're getting tucked into an old belief system again. That's an old way of being. Your new way of being looks like this. And so sometimes we just need those reminders. If I don't know what the old stories are, if I don't know what the old beliefs are, I'm in trouble, because they will sneak in. I will guarantee you. I always joke it's like the nasty thing that comes knocking and the door pretty soon is bowing, because it's like going to come through at you. So we're either going to be really well aware of what's coming at us and be able to navigate that, or I'm really likely to kind of be taken out, honestly. So if you're like me, I much prefer that face forward acknowledging what's going on so that I can face it, deal with it, and move on. Not a fan of surprises that way. Right? Not a fan of surprises that way. Don't like when old stuff comes creeping up and is all of a sudden in my face, and it's sideways and I'm grouchy, or I'm not present, or I'm unkind, or I've lacked vitality and I'd rather do Netflix and be with my blanket up to my nose every day, right? I've discovered new novel ways to miss work because I can't stand my work anymore. I have women talk about that they have to have glasses of wine every night because it's a way to cope and escape. So I really want to invite you into thinking about, that's a beautiful tool to use, is what can go in my bucket that really actually fuels me, that are my reminders. Like I said, I am telling you what, I'm super sappy. I have cards from people. If someone sends me something that is deeply meaningful and comes from the heart, I save that shit and I put it away. I lock it away, because I know I'll have a dark minute and I'll be like, I don't know why I'm doing this anymore. I'll have a human moment. I will get in my head and I will struggle, and I'm going to go get that out, and I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to read it again. I'm going to read it again. I'm going to read it again. And then I'm going to reach out to friend. I'll be like, okay, friend, we got to get out of this, because I got some juice going on, man. We got to clear the energy. This is not serving me, right? So I want to invite you to think about those things. I know this was a lot. This was a big fire hose session, and sincerest apologies, because last week was a total shit show, and how we expected it to go didn't go anything like it was supposed to. Thank you, technology. But here we are. And I wanted to at least drop this in because it felt really meaty to me. It felt like something we needed to be talking about. And it's not, I mean, guys, I wish I could like infuse more humor. Like, I know this isn't funny this week. It's like, it's, you know, it's serious stuff. We're talking about serious stuff. And I also want to make light of that. I can be mired by it, or I can just take a good, long, hard look at myself and have a giggle about my humanity. It's humanity to do this. It's not stupid. It's not wrong. It's not broken. We have to be human about it. One of my very favorite, I'm totally aging myself when I say this out loud. One of my very favorite comedians of all time is legit, oh my God, it's Clark Griswold, but what's his actual name? Forgive me. I'm totally brain farting. Of course I would. But you know what I'm talking about. National Lampoons. He's the dad, Clark Griswold, Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's Vacation. I mean, all of them. Okay. And they're just cheeky, stupid. But what I love about it is it's sort of like human nature personified in sort of a stupid slapstick. I think that's funny. I mean, we all do these things, and he is the epitome of having a sense of humor about it. Right? I mean, like, that's what we can do with it. I can either be sad, I can be hard on myself, and I can be hateful at myself, and I can carry that around, and that's another big stone in my bag. Or I can go, okay, humility. Okay, right? Check yourself. What are you doing? What are you doing? You know better. Or really, are you really afraid you're not responsible? Have you checked yourself? Have you ever committed to something that you really didn't see all the way through unless it was a radical act of self-care? No. I was stressed about a presentation one time a million years ago. I was going to be talking about post-traumatic stress disorder, dear Lord. And it was big packets of material I created in a whole PowerPoint, you know, all the things, right? Stressing about it. Oh my God, stressing. You know, what if I get up and I make a mistake and blah, blah, blah. What if I don't get it done? I thought, what the hell? When have you ever committed to showing up to something that life or death, limb or whatever, you didn't show up for? You haven't. But in my humanity, in our humanity, we forget. And that's where I want to find the lightheartedness about it. Like, dude, this is normal. This is human, okay? It's human. Oh, Valencia, come on. It's all of us, right? And that's what I want to say. Truly, I want you to really kind of wrap your mind around, if you can, using humor in these moments. Seeing the humility in it, knowing that you're human, and trying to have some levity around it, right? We don't have to just be, oh my God. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. Moving on to the next thing where you'll show up as a human being again, right? I mean, it's kind of the equivalent of walking out of the bathroom with toilet paper stuck to the bottom of your shoe, yo. I can either get to the middle of the restaurant and go, right? And lose my poop, or I can freaking crack up about it. That would be me. Forget it. That's funny. That's funny shit. I'm sorry. Truth. I mean, it's okay. Nobody's going to remember it. They're not going to know who did it. It's funny. Dude, I hope somebody goes home and tells their family about it. That's funny. That's funny. Because it's not mean-spirited to laugh at it, right? It's not out of mean spirit. It's just funny. It's because it's an accident, could happen to anybody. That's how we want to look at this. This stuff happens to all of us, my friends. You're not different. I'm not different. And that's why I wanted to share so much of my story today. I felt like it's important that you all understand that this is the work that I do. I don't just dole it out because I'm a guru. It's the very work that I'm walking. I'm in the lane. I'm doing the hard work. I catch myself when I'm in my head. I catch myself in the self-doubt. I have to learn the fine art of letting go for radical self-care, because that shit paves the way to purpose. If I learn to live in my strengths, my unique talents, I am living into my purpose. Those are the tools that help me arrive at the purpose. So I just wanted to really I know that's a lot. Like I said, I'm putting it out there. If you miss some of it, if you come in part of it, you can go back and listen to it as a podcast. You don't have to watch, my friends. Okay. Remember that this is a great tool for just stepping in and actually ingesting it kind of like a podcast. So any questions, I'm checking. Any questions? I don't want to sign off if anybody has a question before we go. I do want to reiterate, my friends, I have a free masterclass coming next Wednesday. It's from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's on release. We're going to be talking more, diving into this kind of stuff. We're going to get a little bit deeper. We're going to do some exercises. And by the end, I don't mean exercises like cardiovascular. What I mean is, right, this kind, and this kind. And then we're going to end with a meditation. We're going to end with a really beautiful and peaceful meditation. So you're going to be leaving feeling really, hopefully rejuvenated and having let go of some things that are not working for you. But go on over and sign up. Super easy, super easy. Pass it on over. It's complimentary. The masterclass is complimentary. It costs you nothing, okay? And if you go to my website, which is just laughinglotuswellness.com, and click on book an appointment right up there in the corner. Do you like I'm tapping on the thing? And what you do is tap on that thing, go in, you'll see it right there. Click on the button, sign up. All I need is your email so I can send you the link for the webinar. That's it. Super easy. Easy peasy, moving on, okay? So I invite you to come to that free masterclass. I'm really telling you, I think it's going to be so much fun. And I hope that we end up having some really beautiful conversation to support your journey of letting some stuff go. And there is a fine art of doing it. And it is crucial to your journey. It is crucial. I do it with every single one of my coaching clients. Some practice and some variation of this, I do with every single one of my clients. That's how important it is. It's part of my course. It's part of what I teach. So I wouldn't do that if I didn't think it was absolutely essential. And that's why I'm inviting you into that. It's a free, it's complimentary. Next Wednesday, 7:30 to 9. Go to my website, click on book an appointment. It's right there. All I need is your email. So come join me. If you know a friend, if someone's going through something, this is the season. I got news for you. This is a season. Not only are we heading into winter, so we're definitely deep in fall, right? Because I'm in the state of Minnesota here. I don't know about y'all. And the trees are still, some of them lovely. The leaves are there falling. And I legitimately, we're in the season of going dark. We're going to the season of reflection. We're going into the season of time where we're going to spend some time here. So if you or one of your friends or a family member needs to be able to let some things go, we just went through a pandemic. We're still going through it, my friends. There is so much between all sorts of social things and all sorts of political things, none of which we're going to talk about here. I can tell you but I will tell you, we've all been living through it. So on top of big employment changes and transformation in our culture, there's so much going on. We need the skill. Sorry. We all need it. I use it daily. For reference, this is a daily habit that I have in one form or another, and I will talk about that. So that's why you want to join that masterclass. And what did Valencia say? Oh, I've never been told I'm anything less than great from my mom, dad, friends, etc. So I don't know why I allow self-doubt to paralyze me at times. Yeah, the insight you provide has been helpful. Thank you, sweetheart. You know what? I will say this, and I want to follow up on that. So thank you for saying that, sweetheart. I ironically have a really nice dose of confidence because despite having a trauma at 17 and beyond that, that's a whole other story. Beyond that, I want to say that I actually really feel as though I was loved my whole life. And so when people would come to my office and work with me and they would say, you just are so happy and you are so positive and you are, well, first of all, that's no one's like that 24/7. Let me be very super freaking abundantly clear. But when they would say that, I really came to know Valencia, and I love that you said this. I really did feel loved in my life. There was a moment where that was a hard pill to swallow because of something that happened with my family. But I will tell you that at the very core of who I am, I was told I was loved. I was told I was good. And that makes a gigantic difference in your confidence. It really, truly does. And so I want to say that to be fair, because I think that I worked with so many people in my career that didn't have that experience. They weren't told that they were good. They weren't told that they were worthy. So they are climbing up this big mountain hill, right? It's so much harder. And so for me, even with the trauma, I think because I was wired with so much love in my early life and then later completely great. Okay. So everything worked out. But I just want to say, even people, Valencia, this is such a great point, is even in the midst of being told that you were good and that you are worthy and that you are important and that you have something good to do, we can still have this sneak in. Know why? Because it's easy to look at what everybody else is doing. self-doubt is commonly associated with comparison. And sometimes we're comparing ourselves, to what happened last year or 2 years ago, or a business ago, or, whatever that old story is you've been carrying around, right? Whoever it is that you have in your life that you think has got their shit together. I've had friends say that. Jen's got her shit together. This is me. Okay. I don't, number one, always, for sure. And two, I just know my way around it. It isn't that I always have my shit together. It's that I work fucking hard to keep my life on track, right? And it isn't a form of perfection. That's a lie. And so I'm so glad that Valencia said that, because it's so very true that even when we are raised in homes, even when we're raised surrounded in love, and we are given these beautiful gifts of encouragement and kindness and warmth and nurturing, we can still come to adulthood and get in our heads. It is a normal person experience. It is not an abnormal thing, no matter how you've been raised. If you haven't been raised with it, it's extra bonus hard. I want to give kudos to that because that's a fact. But even if you have been raised with lots of love, you will show up and you will still, because you're human. And so I want to normalize that, because I don't want anybody to show up to the game and go, what's wrong with me? Because I had all these things, my life was really good. For the most part, my life was really good. Very blessed, hashtag very blessed. And yet I'm human. You're human. You're going to have a minute. You're going to second guess yourself. You're going to wonder what the hell you're doing. Or if you can do it well enough, that's normal. And it's what we do with that. It's really what we do with that that's pivotal, right? It's I can either roll with it, and guess what I look like when I roll with that message? That's good, huh? It's not. That's me being very facetious, dripping sarcasm. Or I can squash that shit. I can right? No, thanks. That's not serving me, right? Okay. So I want you to think about that. We're going to go. I'm going to let you guys go. You guys are incredible. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for hanging out. So blessed to have you here. And again, want to invite you to that masterclass next Wednesday, 7:30 to 9. If you, someone else, whatever, please share that out, because somebody's going to need it. If you don't need it, namaste. That's fantastic. If you don't need it, I'd love for you to show up and tell me all the magical things you're doing, because truly, I love new ideas. So you might be onto something fantastic that I would love to hear about. But if you don't need it, and that is okay, great. Please feel free to pass that on to somebody else who might want to show up and step into using this as a habit, and why it's so important, and having an experience of embodying that for an evening. Okay. All right. So that's how you do. Go to my website, book an appointment, masterclass, free, plug in your email, done. So easy. You can share that out if you feel called to, that resonates for you. If you learned something today, I hope that you are gonna hang out with me. I love that so much. I'm so grateful. If you got questions, I love that. Questions are really powerful. You're asking someone else's thought. When you ask a question, you're asking someone else's thought. And so that's really powerful for our community to come in and go, oh, look at that. Someone asked that question. So please don't be afraid to ask questions. And I truly hope to see you next Wednesday from 7:30 to 9. I'm really looking forward to it. And we'll be around. But until next time, my friends, this is Jen with Laughing Lotus Wellness, sending blessings, love, and light, and supporting you on your path to purpose.